Hello, everyone, and welcome to this free episode of TF. It is my great pleasure, Riley, to bring you on this free one, Britain's number one piss salesman and TV prankster and former guest of this show a couple of times. It's Oobah Butler. Oobah.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I got pissed.
You were like selling it door to door, and what could we do but let you in, invite you in? And...
We were the only ones who would let you in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've been doing the rounds.
One of those
carrying your suitcase full of piss.
One of those like old people remember when Facebook groups. It's like, remember when the piss man still had a cart he would haul door to door.
Yeah, the piss and jug man. He'd come round, he'd say, any piss?
Yeah, back when you were just a twinkle in the piss man's eye.
Remember when the piss man was hard?
What's it like being Britain's number one piss salesman and child knife procurer?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's nice being, I've moved on from shed man to piss man. It's, you know, as you get older, you just don't know whether you're going to be able to achieve your dreams. And yet, look at me.
We're asking the question, can men have it all? Can they have piss and a shed?
I suppose my first question is the piss and are the piss and the knives like related? Like, are you arming the country's children?
Yeah, to apprehend shoplifters.
I am running county lines on this.
and what's more is Amazon is actually quite culpable in enabling the county lines piss trade.
True. Yeah.
I have to say that I thank them for making my product abundant and plentiful.
Because you know what? You were a hardworking door-to-door piss salesman, and then you used the platform Amazon offered you to be able to offer piss to the world.
I mean, they are pro-small business after all.
Now, if you're wondering why
people think the violence is inherent to the piss trade, but really it's only the prohibition of piss that drives it underground and into the hands of criminals.
If we decriminalized piss, you'd be out of a job.
Yeah.
You know?
No P January must be really difficult for you.
So, if you wonder why we're talking about Oobah being some kind of a strange, like a piss NPC, it's because he has just released a new documentary that is now streaming anywhere that you can find it. It's golden.
It's on Channel 4, yeah.
On Channel 4. It is all about how you have you say pranked, but you could also say kind of found various faults in Amazon's processes that would allow someone who meant harm, for example, to I don't know, sell piss to an unsuspecting customer, to allow children to order knives. You got taken to an Amazon black site at one point. And we're going to talk all about your documentary, The Great Amazon Heist.
Getting renditioned to an Amazon black site, but no one was in, so they just dropped you over the fence and left you out in the rain.
So, but before we get, of course, into our back half Amazon chicanery, we have been keeping our ear to the ground when it comes to Peter Thiel and his, let's say, newfound role in federal employment.
Yes. So this is interesting because it depends. This is entirely sourced to a guy who disappeared from the internet for a few years. Do we remember a guy called Chuck Johnson or Charles C. Johnson? Sort of big red beard. He was this like long-time opportunist. Gawker published this story about him having like shit on the floor at a party in college, and he sued them for stupid amounts of money. But yeah, he's been sort of a part of any number of like alt-right sort of like neo-Nazi things. And every single one of them, he has kind of imploded through his own hubris and like interpersonal strangeness, and then he disappeared off the map for a while, and it turned out what he was doing was being the silent partner in Clearview AI, which is this like you can get into some really dark shit with this, like in
lately of this parish, Clearview AI.
Exactly, yeah, and like that's a company with some deep and abiding links to neo-Nazis, and he posted on Facebook in like 2017 that he was like he was working on algorithms to deport all the immigrants.
It's a real glow up, isn't it, from shitting?
Yeah. The alleged shitting. Yeah.
Oh, very alleged.
Now, my favorite Chuck Johnson detail is that he fabricated a story against Bob Menendez to try to smear him.
Yeah, why would you need to? He tried to frame the most obviously corrupt senator for corruption. But like, yeah, if you remember him from Twitter
Allegedly.
back in the day, he got suspended for like threatening to kill DeRay McKesson, and then Elon gave him his account back after Elon got red pilled last year. But like, if you remember him from back in the day, one of the things that he was sort of characteristic of him was he loved being melodramatic. He loved pretending to be a spy. He loved pretending to be a cop, and he loved hinting at all of these things. And he loved being like,
he's like Jan Marsalek.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
yes.
Oh.
But we have, so what we have in this story, essentially, like Peter Thiel being an FBI informant, codenamed, by the way, the Philosopher.
Amazing.
Chuck Johnson's FBI informant codename was Genius.
This may well turn out not to be true at all. First of all, because the man, like, he's not, and I don't know if FBI agents have that level of irony within them. But like, maybe he got his dream job. I don't know. And once again, for like the 5th time, with a bunch of like alt-right people, Chuck Johnson is blowing up the spot because he can't be normal. And this kind of like interpersonal dipshittery is maybe the greatest ally we have against the alt-right, is that they can't get along with each other.
Yeah. So,
or make it to the toilet
it's a good
in
thing
time.
the left. It's a good thing the left don't have those problems at all.
Yeah.
Lockstep on the left, baby.
in 2021, the Thiel began providing information to the FBI on a number of things, namely other people in the Silicon Valley world who were vaguely, let's say, of interest to federal intelligence. And that this was part of Thiel's realizing that, oh shit, being associated with the MAGA movement has been getting some people, also federal informants, in jail. I'd better distance myself from them immediately.
Yeah, so now I hope, I mean, obviously the point of Chuck Johnson saying this is to try and like burn Thiel to like anyone he's ever worked with, and he's given money to a lot of people. And so if the hope is that like what he's done is all of those Thiel bucks were reported directly to the FBI, and you know he has actually been like dropping a dime square, so to speak, then you know, great, it destroys Thiel, and like Johnson is very happy. What's interesting to me though is the extent to which, if this is true, it reveals a kind of like working of the intelligence community that we've only seen kind of hinted at. You can see it in bits of it in the like Epstein stuff, where it's like anytime any of these people are in trouble for anything, they are able to make out some kind of like dubious intelligence value to whatever they're doing. And they'll give up something, we know not what, and in the hopes that it kind of gets the heat off them, and you know, maybe it works.
So in this case, this is reading from the Business Insider article where this came out. In a statement prepared for the Senate Judiciary Committee, Jonathan Booma, the FBI agent that Thiel was informing.
Yeah, he said, you should buy a house. When I was your age, it was easy.
Yeah. Said that FBI headquarters had closed
no one
his most
wants to
valuable...
be an informant these days.
Yeah. Had closed his most valuable human sources, including Genius, Johnson, who had reported on far-right figures involved with planning the attack on the Capitol. Johnson told the Insider that Genius was his CHS codename, which Insider was able to independently verify.
Great. So perfect.
He must have either Jonathan Booma, very, very good sense of humor, or easily buffaloed by $6 words.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, though. I do appreciate that, like, I don't know what the consequences of this are going to be. I don't think that, like, Peter Thiel is going to get, like, shanked in prison as a consequence of this. But I do appreciate the kind of mutually assured destruction of being, like, I am a Fed, he's a Fed, everyone who's ever taken money from him is a Fed. That's, it's very helpful.
Well, I'll carry on.
Peter Thiel gets stabbed in prison and finds himself covered in someone else's blood.
Johnson said that he was exposing Thiel's work as a source in retribution for what Johnson perceives to be bad decision-making by the Founders Fund, Thiel's venture capital firm, citing that he felt betrayed that Thiel did not invest in Johnson's own startup ideas.
Well, this is the thing. Like, he's just like any other tech guy, which is he had one successful pitch, which was we're gonna create Clearview AI, and it's gonna like allow the death squads to kill all the immigrants. Right? That was his explicit plan for that, and Peter Thiel picked it up, and then he just kind of like fucked around thinking. He was like convinced that he had some kind of like entrepreneurial genius, and was then like, why aren't any of my other startup ideas getting traction? There's a million guys like that in Silicon Valley.
He was going to make the right-wing metaverse.
His one before this was something called WeSearcher, which was going to be like an alt-right crowdfunding thing. They did a bunch of like planning for like the Gawker lawsuit and the Slack channel for that. And that collapsed too, because Peter Thiel didn't want to put the money into it. So it's just this weird kind of like right-wing miniature terrarium version of Silicon Valley, where you have all of the same stuff, but there's one hedge fund instead of a bunch of VCs.
Yeah, WeSearcher got hemmed up in a trademark suit because that's what the people who work on the Jonathan Ross show doing the storylines are called.
Johnson also told Insider that he felt betrayed that he didn't invest in his own startups, which he expected Thiel to do in exchange for introducing him to Oobah, saying that he told Thiel that by offering the FBI a window in his contacts with foreign governments, he could demonstrate his loyalty to the United States. And that basically he then made clear to Thiel that extravagant wealth no longer affords the safety that it used to. I told him to join up or get crushed. And then what clearly happened, right, is like, I blackmailed you fair and square, and you didn't offer me a bribe. Now I'm going to the press.
It was very rude, to not reciprocate.
This guy's a kindred spirit. I like this guy. I didn't know about this guy.
Yeah. This is but what I like most about Chuck Johnson, though, as Milo, your comment that this is an American Jan Marsalek is quite apt. I think
fantastic.
Is to think like this is someone who again likes being a spy and romanticizes it, but because he's an American spy working for an American intelligence, most of what he is able, this would be true for British as well, most of what he is able to do is post and whine. He posts and whines and tattles. That's all he is. Jan Marsalek, he wrote a Substack justifying why he burned Thiel, and it is exactly as weepy and as self-justifying and self-aggrandizing as you might expect, which I'm going to read from a little bit now, but this is just like hold the image of Jan Marsalek like waving around the recipe for Novichok to whoever would look at it, and like putting on so much Gucci gear in Libya that like the GRU guys he was with was like, you're gonna get killed if you wear that much fancy equipment.
Guy from the GRU being like, too much Gucci, people will think you're Chechen.
Right? Hold that in your mind while we read this. Johnson wrote this. I worked on new technologies, especially satellites and genetics and facial recognition, and on sovereign wealth funds and foreign interference in American elections. I met with and recruited sources for the FBI. I did this at great expense, both financial and stress, and I enjoyed every bit of it. Family members of mine had served in the intelligence community as undercovers, and I suppose you could say I wanted to prove my mettle. I liked the danger of it. Unfortunately,
what danger? What was Mencius fucking Moldbug gonna do to this fat cunt with a pubic beard?
Yeah.
I love the idea of being like tortured to death by Peter Thiel. Like he finds out that you're spying on him, and he's got like a fucking basement set up with like a blood gutter in the floor.
Yeah, fucking like Gavin McInnes is gonna like beat the shit out of you, and out of reflex you just start naming cereal brands.
Yeah, the danger of tattling to your own government? What fucking danger? Unfortunately,
is he working pro bono? Why has he got financial pressure? I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, expenses. It's like any job,
It says, unfortunately, I was unceremoniously terminated as a confidential human source, along with other sources handled by Special Agent Jonathan Oobah, because my work was, quote, too good.
Bond, you're off the case. This is great though, because it just reveals unintentionally a little bit about how that relationship worked. This is a man who was desperate for the status of being like an undercover informant, and this one bored FBI agent is just like, if you didn't expense so many like avocado toasts, you'd be. He's just like not really paying that much attention. You kind of get the sense nothing is really, like nothing useful is going on intelligence-wise here.
Well,
all this man wanted was an exploding pen, and they wouldn't give it to him.
Yeah.
And they gave Jan Masterlik the recipe for Novichok. This is the thing. You have way better returns doing this in Russia than you do in the US.
Honestly, you have to read the first 4 pages of the recipe for Novichok of them reminiscing about the time they were watching Swan Lake before it even gets to the actual ingredients.
So keep in mind what you said about this just being very bored and he just being humored by this FBI agent, because the next line of this Substack post takes on a very different tone, if you keep that in mind. I take this slight as a high compliment, especially as I was assured material I provided went directly to the president. Yeah, I'm going to put this in the president's bin.
Yeah, it makes this kind of sound as it goes in. It's fine. That's normal.
Wait, is this Biden or Trump at this point? Because these are two very different kinds of not reading it. Because like Trump's not reading it, and he's like, "What is this? Some kind of loser? I don't know. I'm not interested." Whereas Biden is like, "What?
But the thing is,
What's the paperwork?"
If Trump thought about this guy at all, it would be because the most lurid detail is the one that sticks in Trump's mind, whether it's true or not. To Trump, he would be the floor shitting guy. Forever.
Yeah.
You're a disgrace.
Very fat guy shits anywhere. Ass so big he misses the toilet. That's what I'm hearing. That's what people are saying.
He did know. He claims to have known Trump and worked on the Trump transition team. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because like fucking anyone was there.
Sorry,
So during that time, I recruited several human sources, including the philosopher, aka Peter Thiel. I did this because I was instructed to find the FBI to help deal with compromised billionaires, especially in the tech world. There's a lot, and indeed many venture funds effectively double as fronts for foreign intelligence.
Oh no, I'm just hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, for example, Jonathan Buma and I stopped Elon Musk from giving billions in inflated stock to Igor Kurganov, a Russian poker player backed by the Chinese mob.
Okay, that's really... If you could have got Elon Musk's legs broken by the Chinese mob... Why did you take that from us?
I love a guy, Ivan Perganov, Russian poker player backed by the Chinese mob.
How does that
this
first meeting
This is like
happen?
a character in a Dan Brown book.
You play like one hand that goes really well, and like a guy calls you across the bar and is like, "Hey, do you want to work for the Chinese mob?" Like,
yeah, against Chinese Le Chiffre.
The Founders Fund continued to back a series of con men rather than be a responsible venture firm, to which I have to say, Andreessen Horowitz has never backed a con man.
Yeah.
SoftBank has never backed a con man.
I mean, there's a lot of sort of like axe to grind with Elon Musk in this post, and you can kind of reading between the lines, that's his real beef. We weren't going to mention this, but I think it does bear mentioning that he ends the thing with a little like thing implying heavily that Elon Musk is like, you know, working with Israeli intelligence, which again is coming from an like more or less open neo-Nazi and certainly open Holocaust denier. So the seriousness with which you should take that and the implications you should make from it, I think very little. But that's the beef that he has here. Is that he's angry that Peter Thiel is better friends with Elon Musk, another billionaire, than the guy whose chief claim to fame is settled with Gawker Media after they printed a claim that he shit on the floor in college.
Hey, he also introduced Hon Ton That to Clearview AI.
Yeah, the weird, like, celibate, racist Asian monk guy coder. Yes, certainly.
Being a spy sounds awesome.
Yeah, I mean...
Genuinely just thought, how...
Oobah, how do you feel about barrels?
Should I be a spy?
I think you just have to like put the feelers out there.
We're planting some seeds, but because it's you, it'd have to sort of be: can you be the spy that plays all the sides? Can you involve the Chinese mob in your next documentary?
Genuinely,
you have to get really good at poker in Kowloon. You know,
I just sat there fantasizing about being. I think the same thing as the guy in the fucking.
I feel like being a spy. Well, look, I mean. Feel like many jobs, it is very much like can you manage your email inbox effectively?
Yeah. Inbox 007.
And this is the problem with like a lot of these, right? They think that like the spy stuff is about, you know, pens with poison darts and stuff, but no, really it is just about like how you handle your paperwork.
Dealing with Karen in HR.
I mean, the thing is,
brokering deals.
If sort of like putting out feelers on podcasts that you were interested in becoming a spy isn't good enough to get recruited as a spy, what am I fucking doing with my life, you know?
Exactly what a spy would say.
Yes.
I'm very good at managing my emails too.
Yeah, you might hear that Alice's audio sounds slightly different today. She's coming at us from inside a barrel.
Helping hold up a new motorway outside of Moscow.
That's right.
That's right.
No. So I want to move on from our good old friend Mr. Thiel. I'm really not a story about Peter Thiel. Like, oh my God, billionaire collaborates with state to try to secure favorable treatment after trying to collaborate with other arm of state disavowed by previous.
It's mostly just remember Chuck Johnson, remember that guy?
Yeah. And instead just enjoying American Jan Marsalek with all the attendant whininess, tattling, and of course nothing but posting. An American Jan Marsalek who can be Jan Marsalek from his computer chair and never actually do anything fun.
Yeah, Gamer Marsalek.
This is, I want to move on, of course, to our Amazon discussion and the discussion about your journey to the heart of the beast. Tell me about Paul Butler.
Paul Butler, the big fella.
Princess Diana's butler.
Yeah, Paul Burrell. I'm sorry, I should have said. I mean, I went and worked undercover at Amazon. Amazon Coventry, went into the belly of the beast, which is sort of the center of the Amazon universe a little bit in terms of the union stuff at the moment. Very close to unionizing, sort of the closest warehouse outside of Staten Island, which is unionized, obviously, the AOU. And I went and worked there undercover, sprayed my hair brown because I'm moderately recognizable, and I looked a bit Miss Doubtfire, but it did the trick. For
happens to the best of us.
The initial fake tits were a bit much.
It's the last thing they suspect,
It was the complex mat of hair that the spray that I had used made it quite Doubtfire. And then the glasses. Yeah, I mean, I applied for a job at Amazon Coventry. I got it. I strapped a camera between my legs, and I went in.
And you got rumbled very quickly, as I understand it, right?
Day three.
And this is the thing, right? The show was great, but this was the bit that sort of moved from comedy with with an edge of the stuff to we are brushing the wings of something quite dark here, is when they took you into the back rooms.
Yeah.
Essentially what happened is you were there at a warehouse seeing what you could do to prank Amazon, but also actually looking at what they were doing in the run up to this unionization effort.
Yeah.
You could say, and you were there for 3 days. They rumbled you and then took you to what I can only describe as an Amazon fulfillment center black site.
Yes.
How do you think they knew who you were, and that information gets disseminated and they just know that and can act on it so quickly?
One of the people ratted on me.
Wow.
Someone ratted on me.
It's like horizontal surveillance, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of, so on my third day, the first day was kind of induction day and you're kind of going around the warehouse. And look, the disguise was just Clark Kent, wasn't it? It was just a pair of glasses and a slightly different arrangement of my hair. So there was always a danger. And it took us 6 months to get that signed off. 6 months for the Channel 4 to allow me to go with a camera on me into Amazon. And in the short amount of time, we did manage to observe depressing things, obviously, as you'd expect. People in chronic pain. It kind of being this open secret kind of thing. And there's loads of stuff that I can't talk about because my camera fucked up on one day. And we tried to put it in the film, and then ultimately we have to take it out because we can't prove it. But we got what we needed, which was sort of evidence of stuff that we were struggling to prove from the outside. People at Amazon Coventry, from the people we were talking to, were describing it sort of being like a prisoner, and it's just fucking hell, the way people feel. There's an atmosphere. I used to work in a car factory when I was 18, 19. So different, very, very different. The pressure that you have, the surveillance is intense. Every time you come off the warehouse floor, 3 times a day, you have to go through airport-style security scanners. This is in your break. And the warehouse is huge. So even that, but so I mean, I had a camera on me, so I knew I was going to go off every time. So I was just I've got a pelvic screw. But I was day 3, after bad shifts, working in bad heat, no ventilation, a lot of people in pain, and obviously I was part of this alleged, listen to me, hiring spree that GMB have talked about since, in order to just sort of suppress the upcoming union vote in Amazon Coventry, which was successful. They allegedly doubled the size of the workforce in a very short space of time. I was one of 100 sort of new recruits, and only 2 of us out of all those recruits weren't students from South Asia on temporary visas, which was interesting. So they can only work 20 hours a week. Look, this is all very like earnest beginnings to what is essentially a piece of entertainment. The film is still trying to deal with these issues which people have become a little switched off to in a way that actually cuts through. That's the idea.
Yeah, for
and before we get into some of the pranks as well, because this is the part that I think at least I also found most arresting is that whole experience of Amazon effectively surveilling you, whether sort of through horizontal or vertical surveillance, or people horizontally surveilling one another because they're so conditioned by a culture of vertical surveillance, that ultimately when you were in that room and they said, "You're Oobah Butler," and you were like, "Yep. No, I'm afraid I'm not Paul Butler at all." You then said, "I'm just going to leave." And they were like, "No, you can't leave. You have to go through the scanners, and you have to go get searched. And you have to sit down here and wait a little while." And you just kept saying, "No, I'm just going to go." And then you just kept walking away, and they were like, "No, you really can't go."
Am I being detained?
Yeah. Like, are you a state yet? Do you have a monopoly on legitimate use of force yet? No, I'm gonna leave.
This is what was very funny and British about it to me. It reminded me a bit like, that scene in Ocean's 11 where they get them out back in the casino and they're like roughing them up or whatever. Like that, but it's just like a woman from HR going well, it's against our policy. As you can see, I'm wearing a high-vis vest, so obviously I will need to escalate this.
Yeah. The confidentiality agreement you sign. The worst thing that could have happened is them finding the camera. If they'd have found the camera, I'd have been in a lot. If they'd have found the camera, I'd have been in a lot of trouble. So I had to try and get out of there before they did, basically. And they really didn't want me to leave, and I really didn't want to stay.
Was that something you had been through before going in, like as like a conduct after capture thing, to be like, don't let them like search you, just go? Or was that spur of the moment?
No, I was like, there was a lot of stuff that they were like, undercover reporters are a specific type, and I ain't one. And it was just stuff like everything can go to court, all recordings you should expect. Think about what you're saying in that context. So I was like, wanted to say, I'm filming Undercover Boss or whatever.
I'm actually the boss of Amazon.
You're promoted.
So rips off wigs or rips off like brown hairspray to reveal totally bald Jeff Bezos head.
Yeah, exactly. So I genuinely wanted to just bullshit as I normally would. But they were like, "No, this could go to court. You deeply unserious man."
Channel 4 doing their official escape, evasion, and resistance to interrogation training. Jon Snow like tipping a bucket of water over your head.
That's why they have SASAU tough enough to bring all of this shit in house.
Yeah, that's true.
I just kept thinking about like you're in the Amazon Black site. That Ethan Hawke comes and puts a laptop down in front of you and just starts ordering things in your movies account until you break.
just going through your own account. Like, why did you order like Penguins of Madagascar in 2018? What's going on with you?
That's funny actually. Before we start, like when we were kind of gearing up to this, I did look up through my history to see if they had anything on me. They don't. They don't. Some bad choices of taste, maybe. But
do you think like one of them was annoyed that they had like they had a reservation at the Shed that never materialized? You owe me dinner.
I had that when I was doing it. I did a speech in Norway a few years ago, and this like rich Norwegian businessman was like, "I tried to book a table there," and it was like Sorry, what? What? Yeah, genuinely.
I called you, but you seem to be doing a podcast at the time. No, but yeah, this
Call
is
back.
Yeah, this is
Call back to a podcast from 2017.
Yeah.
Boom.
But this is the view of what it actually is like to be that surveilled. That again, you as someone who's like known but not like famous enough to be known to Amazon.
Jesus Christ.
They're able to just identify exactly who you are. But also the other sort of the film then proceeds as to essentially hack, as we mentioned earlier, hacking bits of Amazon to do things that they specifically say they would not do, and that any reasonable person would find completely insane that they allow to happen. And I think that there is this summary, at least in two of them, because two of them is, as we mentioned earlier, you made Amazon driver P, which they have to throw out because if their vans are searched and there are bottles full of piss, they get demerited or whatever. But they can't take a break to piss because then they're time off task, right? You highlight that impossible thing, but
they have to transcend the need to piss.
But also what you do, right, is you show how Amazon can talk out of both sides of its mouth. It can say to its customers, we are a store. And it can say to like regulators in the state, we are a platform that connects individual buyers and sellers, and we will just algorithmically promote things.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, kind of making the film has been really difficult. And every single outlet that's covered it immediately gets corrections, immediately gets notes. Like, it's immediate. Like, The Guardian put out their piece 2 minutes later. The press officer for Channel 4 was saying, yeah, we've had all these corrections. This is a serious, the company is very serious about how people, not breaking the spell, I guess, the spell of like, it doesn't matter, however they operate. I love having the shit quick, which is fair enough. I understand that. Or piss quick. But,
well, yeah.
Where was I? Yeah, so thing about the piss drink, it was interesting because I initially listed it as a refillable pump dispenser. That was the initial trick. And then the Amazon's algorithm tricked itself, thought it was an energy drink and moved it into energy drinks, bypassing its like food and drinks licensing protecting, which is interesting. And then I wanted to get it moved from energy drinks into bitter lemon drinks. So I was going back and forth with them being like, I'm a small business owner. I know this product. I manufacture it myself. Move it into this. And at this point, like it literally says like urine in the product description. And then eventually I emailed Amazon's executive team and then they escalated it and moved it into the category I wanted. So around liability, you were saying earlier, it's quite interesting because Trading Standards said to us that if they had knowledge, even if it's a third party seller, small business, whatever, then the liability is also theirs.
Well, of course, if you are selling urine, it's quite hard to know which category of drink it should go into. So I do feel for them there. I mean, other than on Amazon.de, where there is a specific Piscatranken category.
But this is what we like when we talk about platforms, right? We always talk about how they, on the one hand, they appear to take responsibility for what's on there, right? Like, and seeming to endorse certain things, saying Amazon's choice or what have you. But generally, what they actually do is just algorithmically promote whatever seems to work. And that's very easily gameable, as you've shown, I think, now several times across several different platforms. But also, it's like that's a marked contrast how lightly you were surveilled, the light touch with which they looked at you say, I want to sell piss. Here are all the ingredients in piss. It's piss. They just said, number one, promote it, put it at sell it, we'll fulfill it for you even. Contrast that to the amount of times you got searched between going from the packing and picking line to the smoking area.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, the frictionless of buying versus being a worker there.
Well, because you could have been trying to steal some of the piss off of the work floor. This Paul Butler guy.
This guy doing it.
This is valuable piss.
They say we will package and sell whatever this is for you, and it being piss. That's the meeting point between the other highly controlled access and highly surveilled lives of the workers, and a total free for all for businesses. That's what we had back when before, say, I don't know, any kind of trading standards meant that you could just sell whatever and call it whatever.
Yeah, my in my family history, one of my great uncles used to sell rabbit droppings as medicine. I know that.
Wow, there you go.
Family business, you know?
Yeah.
But we talk a lot about, about the sort of unfettered world of tech feudalism, or the unfettered world of neoliberal sort of avarice, right? As being actually returning to the kinds of experiences that you would have in the 19th century. Right, dog bitings now, dog mauling's now much more common.
Yeah,
you could people selling piss as a cure-all.
Yeah,
much more common.
Gwyneth Paltrow will be all over this. Yeah. This is goop.
Also, we can talk about the idea that Amazon says to customers, "Trust us, we're a store," and regulators
until they're not. It's very much like you wouldn't regulate a guy with glasses, right? Is to be like, buy from us, we're a store, we're a store, we're a store. The regulator rounds the corner. We're just a simple country platform, Yeah.
So let's talk about how
you wouldn't drink a piss.
For example, and this is the same logic that allowed your young nieces to use an Alexa to order thousands and thousands of pounds of knives and rat poison.
Yeah. Shout out to Even Penny.
Look, they've got a mole problem in their garden and they need to deal with it one way or another.
I mean, I'm going to start a weapon unboxing YouTube channel with them. But yeah, no, that was one of those, I had to kind of fight quite hard to get that in the film. But I think it's actually I think it's my favorite bit, I think. It's just because it's so demented. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Amazon keeps on, in its kind of right to reply, keeps on talking about, all items that should be, items that are age verified, you can't buy through your Alexa. It's like, yeah, but these weren't age verified. That's the whole fucking point.
What were some of the items that were in question?
Yeah, so knives, lots of knives. My niece at one point, 4 years old, turned to me and they've just been ordering all these different knives through their Alexa with no issue, and getting them sent to Amazon lockers basically, or to my parents' house. The interesting thing about Amazon lockers is because age verification is impossible in an Amazon locker. It is impossible. And 90% of the items we ordered, we put through there. And to be honest, the niece's part of it is the vehicle with why it's a fun stunt. But legally speaking, it didn't. I could have ordered them items. It doesn't matter. It's just simply not age verifying something that should be age verified is an offence. And then if you then don't package it in the right way, another offence. If you don't ID someone at the door, third offence. And in order for those things to all fall in line at the point of purchase, you need to have been ID'd. When you try and whenever you try and order a bottle of vodka or whatever like that. Alcohol, they're pretty good at regulating on Amazon, but these weapons that we found, a lot of different items. Solvents, we did a lot of solvents.
And then we worked on the film.
That's why we got the ideas, bro. Yeah. Me and Teal. But we would have done lots of different ones. I wanted to buy uranium at one point, but they've stopped selling it on there.
Wait, they were selling it?
Yeah, they were selling uranium. I was like, oh, this is the perfect bit. But the other thing
costs on that have got to be prohibitive.
Yeah, it can only go to places that are served by armored train, unfortunately.
But unfortunately, you're not in, so they have to leave it behind your bin.
throwing it over the fence and absolutely destroying your conservatory.
Genuinely, go have a look online. They used to sell it on Amazon, and that was my dream, was getting them ordering uranium. But our budget wasn't that big, so I was sticking to things like knives and razor blades, and
it's hard to do county lines of uranium, to be fair.
Exactly, it is these days anyway. John, old Boomer told me.
We're trying to build anti-tank munitions to sell Ket. The county lines wars are really amping up.
But if you weren't able to get uranium, that does make me curious about what else was in the works for this that for one reason or another just didn't quite come through.
For this specific stunt?
Oh, in general, yeah.
In general.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh god, we had so many good bits. there was one bit about the Roomba, which Amazon bought, the little machine vacuum. I read that you can like build blueprints of people's houses from their Roomba, if you have the Roomba. So I wanted to like go and get an interview with a kind of high-level Amazon executive, and like go to their house and like let off a Roomba as we chatted, and, like completely strawberry lens the interview, and like be like, oh, you guys are great, and then take the Roomba with me, get the blueprints off the Roomba. I did all this bit, the how to do the tech bit, but Channel 4 wouldn't let me do this. And then to go to like a maximum security prison, find a cat burglar, and be like, what could you do with these plans? And have them be like, hey, here's where I would get in there. This is what I would do with this part of the house. This is what I would do with that. Then you then go back to the executive, and I was like, hey, I've got some of your data. And then, I like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what Amazon's doing to all of us. But when you do it to them, it's quote unquote intimidation.
Yeah. That's not in the public interest.
Just because I gave Charles Bronson the blueprints of some guy's house, suddenly it's a conspiracy.
Yeah. How did I end up here?
Yeah, but this is number one. I do wish you were able to pull that stunt. I'm sorry you weren't. I think that the thing that's highlighted about Amazon, where in this documentary, the sort of the thread that runs through it, kind of bubbling, a thread bubbling. That's terrible metaphor mixing. But the thread below the surface is where they choose to be incredibly reckless. It is where they allow the bigness of they look at the bigness of their platform, the very thing that allows them to exist in the way that they do, and then just shrug their shoulders and say, well, no one could possibly control all of that, so I guess we might as well not try. And then the care that you would want taken by someone supplying you with something is then just not taken, whether that means they are not thinking about thinking about and not caring about the fact that these blueprints of lots of people's houses are stored just how Amazon decides to secure them. I'd like to know how the blueprint of my house is being stored, if it's going to be stored somewhere, but also how, they can say, okay, well, we're going to age verify stuff that's obvious to us, right? But a bunch of these knives, they're gardening tools, so we're not going to age verify gardening tools. It's so big that you have to think in categories, and then it's not profitable to do anything more if you're going to have that level of bigness. But where they're not reckless, you go back to the very beginning, right? They're reckless about selling piss. They're reckless about selling knives. They're not reckless about allowing someone to take a piss.
Or selling, or like responding to any of the stuff in the film, like you say.
Yeah. Well, we've got valuable piss, and we need to keep hold of it. I mean, this man, Paul Butler, who's infiltrated our warehouse, an obvious pseudonym for Piss Butler. We're onto this guy.
It's a spy. There's me in the future.
You're in like a Looper type situation with a version of yourself with brown hair.
It's a sci-fi documentary on Channel 4 last night. I didn't know about it. It's a bit weird.
The last thing I think I want to ask, beyond sort of stunts you weren't able to pull, the sort of these threads that are common between them.
Yeah.
It's just how fucking difficult was it to get this made?
Yeah. Oh my God. So hard. Making a film about yeah. Up until the very, very last minute, it couldn't have happened. It might not have happened. Mm-hmm. Like it was it's really difficult. I mean, I commit fraud in it.
That's like the byline, put that on the thing.
Yeah, I commit fraud in the film, and Amazon genuinely, in the film, a lawyer says to me, yeah, you could get criminal charges for this. And I'm like, oh yeah, but isn't this clever? And he's like, only if you don't admit to it. And I'm like, okay.
Well, it's too late for that.
Did you have like your own lawyer who like
don't go on a podcast,
or even in situations where we're like, okay, well, if you do like end up and in your case it did happen, was there any legal advice that was given to you about what you should and shouldn't say in that setting by like a lawyer
on the warehouse floor? Yeah, massively. Undercover filming is so heavily regulated because of the invasion of privacy and all that stuff. 6 months of work to go in, that's just the way it is. But like that's like one aspect of it, like just getting stuff on television. Like you will not believe just the amount of, I mean, I'm I was used to the Wild West of like Vice fucking videos on the internet. This is a bit different. I dropped acid in an Amazon factory. No, I didn't. But like, it was really difficult, and like, but it kind of shows. And Amazon have got unlimited resources, basically, haven't they? Mm-hmm. And their legal team is a lot bigger than Channel 4. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm just lucky that a public service broadcaster picked this up. My piss film,
precious piss film.
My precious piss film. Yeah, and there's the film, I do think, like, when you make a project like this, a documentary or something, kind of dawns on you what it is about and what, you know, themes that kind of come as you finish it, and definitely the law is what, for me, a lot of this is about. You know, throughout the film, I had this kind of vehicle kind of thing that I wanted to do, is me talking to the lawyer and telling him after the fact. I mean, I met this guy in a pub. He's like he is one of Britain's leading like young jurors, according to some weird Fortune 500 of lawyers. I don't know what it is, but Colin anyway. And I talked to him throughout the film, and you know, he is genuinely like a high-powered lawyer. And yeah, I mean, I guess just like stuff like, you know, Amazon, as I'm leaving, when I'm getting sort of, you know, as I'm leaving, I'm trying to leave, they remind me of the confidentiality agreement I've signed and things like that. And he, obviously, at the end of the film, I have him look at that. And he goes through this confidentiality agreement and basically says, well, no, I mean, this doesn't really stand up. But this is not legal advice, and no one should take it as legal advice. Mm-hmm. He says that. But yeah, we created this website, ndanoway.com, where anyone who works at Amazon can have 6 minutes of his full legal advice that I kind of tricked him to give in.
It's not legal advice.
It's sort not of legal advice. Not legal. Thank you.
6 minutes of like academic commentary.
Commentary, yeah. It's called ndanoway.com. Stan Cross designed that as well, and it's very funny. It looks like Better Call Saul.
He's just riffing.
And it's get it up.
Well, a lot of things that employers make you sign, like NDAs and stuff, are actually like effectively unenforceable, because it's like the lawyer says in your film, like you can't contract people to not reveal stuff that's like breaches of the law.
Yeah.
And you also can't contract people out of their statutory rights and so on, but your employer will have you believe that they can do this, but they can't. Exactly. So a lot of stuff you sign in these situations is actually horseshit anyway.
Well, yeah.
I think... So go ahead.
No. He basically says, I say to him, you know, he's like, look, you know, it does say you need to go through the appropriate channels. And I'm like, yeah, but what if someone just doesn't fucking want to do that? They don't like their manager. They don't feel, could you tweet about it? And he was like, I don't know. And then he's like, basically he said that he would direct anyone who's going through that to ACAS, the free employment advice. And yeah, I mean, it is insane. Yeah, the basic understanding, like what even is a protected disclosure? Like what? I had to work for 4 hours on a truck that I was told I was going to be off for. After half an hour, I was there for 4 hours. There was no van. It was 40 degrees. That's something that happened to me while I was working there. Like, what am I not allowed to say? Like, is that like company secrets? I mean,
I think this gets back around to what the way I sort of felt the theme of the law made itself known in the documentary, which is that Amazon is able to make the law what it needs to make the law. It's able to make regulation what it needs to make regulation. A fine is the cost of doing business. And all of that means that, well, you need to be quite scrupulous about what you think of as a protected disclosure. They are able to use the sheer force of their bigness, political influence, and money to get to define what a protected disclosure is. What it really highlights is how uneven a playing field the law actually is.
Yeah, I mean, Colin actually said something that we cut out of the film, but he was like, the law's like the doors of the Ritz, open to everybody.
You know, and it comes back around to like thinking, well, if Amazon has essentially made itself in more than just one way, by the way, it's not just incredible infrastructure. I say incredible meaning gigantic and huge and all consuming, and it's wormed its way into everything for physical goods, but also for digital as well with Amazon Web Services.
I mean, that ndanoway.com is probably hosted on AWS. Probably.
Yeah.
Just by the law of like averages.
Yeah.
Well, almost certainly. And, you know, that this has wormed its way into becoming the plumbing for so many things. It is essentially able to be a kind of FOIA-able public utility privately owned by one man. or privately owned by its shareholders and run by Andy Jassy, sort of seen over by Jeff Bezos.
Well, that's why the thing, talking about infrastructure, that's why I wanted to do the pothole bit.
I love the potholes.
Thank you. I knew you would. I knew you would.
I appreciated this.
Yeah, I mean, I get a whole bit where I sort of try and trick Amazon into paying tax by ordering a load of cement from Amazon, going around Britain, filling in potholes with it, and then sending back sand from the beach that weighs the same amount.
It's ironically a constituent ingredient of cement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another example, though, of how they are relatively reckless. They have designed their whole system to work to sort of just tick over well enough without human oversight, and look what fucking happens.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's it. It's like, how quick can Amazon make a Prime delivery without the roads that taxes pay for? That's the piece of logic, isn't it? And it's like replacing infrastructure. And...
I was going to say, on the subject of like what went into making the film and legal agreements, a few months ago, I got a text from Uber asking if I would mind making a purchase on Amazon on his behalf. And I was like, sure. So then I get looped in an email chain with some people at the production company. And then I had to sign an agreement about not saying anything about the fact that I was going to buy some piss. And then in the email, in block capitals, it said, "You will not receive any urine." Which I sort of presumed that I wouldn't, but I was glad to have that in writing.
I mean, this is something I didn't mention, we had real people trying to buy the drink. Real people who we weren't in on it tried to buy the fucking drink. And I was like, this could be it. This could be my moment.
Yeah,
but, you know,
it was popping off in Germany. one man was like, finally.
Goes well with like rye sandwiches.
Yeah. Finally, I don't have to keep going to Ostbahnhof every weekend. I could just get it to my house. If you want to talk, by the way, just as a little bit of a capstone about Amazon, let's say, allowing its bigness to pull people out of the... I mean, look, we talk about... There are lots of things about Amazon that are terrible. We talk about it frequently, and we always look at a different facet of it. It's almost like a hyper object. It's hard to conceive of all at once. And so what we're talking about now is their recklessness with which they treat their consumers versus and regulators and the world that they operate in versus the scrutiny that they subject their employees to. If you want to talk about, and again, this is just one dimension of that, let's say the next step of that is that a couple of days ago, they announced a new wave of humanoid robots that they were going to deploy throughout all of their factories in a bid to completely automate their workflow. So they have this thing called Digit, a robot with 2 arms and 2 legs, which, again, they say, why not 8? Let's have an octopus robot. But
let's please not have an octopus robot.
Which are going
Can I have that robot's number?
They are going to operate in Amazon warehouses to, quote again, eliminate all the menial and mundane and repetitive tasks, with Amazon bosses reassuring staff that they are irreplaceable, and the introduction of new technology doesn't mean there will be fewer warehouse workers or that they will, let's say, have their own work become more automated. Because what we've seen is, time and time again, Amazon introduces robotics into its warehouses. And what that does is it makes the robots the boss, and it forces the staff to work more like robots, leading to things like repetitive strain injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you could also talk about another piece of news that came out like a week ago, where Amazon are accused of human trafficking in Saudi Arabia. So that's another one to think about with their workforce, isn't it?
What is it called in Saudi Arabia? The normal way of doing business.
Fucking hell, that's dark. Yeah. Insane. Yeah.
Well, and this is one of their spokesmen. This is on Amazon's own internal PR site. So one of the best sources for this show is just company's own PR. They emphasize the ability of technology to augment and not replace what the quote-unquote human-oriented work. Continuing, when we do our job really, really well, our robotic systems just blend into the background to become ubiquitous. You don't talk about your dishwasher too much in your kitchen, but it's an amazing robot. It's such a great robot that I don't even call it a robot. Again,
sort of Trump syntax there, you know?
Yeah.
Even if people said it was a terrible robot, I'd say it's great to me.
I've just remembered a bit. I remembered another bit we cut.
Oh, please.
There was a robot that broke someone's arm that works in a factory in the Midwest somewhere in America.
Yeah, the arm-breaking robot.
Yeah.
We have this thing.
Well, it was a specific robot that was like broken someone's arm. I think it injured someone else, and I was like, I want to assassinate the robot. How do I take out that robot? And I was like, have you performed some sort of complicated bit where I go in and I assassinate a specific robot? And they were like, so you're talking about doing like millions of pounds of criminal damage there? And I was like, no, I want to kill the robot.
Yeah, it's not a robot. It's so good. It's now a person. I love the like
what if you
evil
bought the uranium from Amazon and then built a weapon out of that? Then
Return
this
it.
circular economy, right?
Yeah. Send a bottle of piss back.
I love evil company PR where it's just like, now the use of the term human trafficking is only really germane to our operation if you think of them as people, which we do not.
I love it. This bottle of piss I bought from the Amazon uranium warehouse is glowing awfully green.
Yeah, you have like one hemisphere of plutonium that you buy that comes from one fulfillment center, another from another. You return them both; they go to the same return center. You know.
I love the like a 1990s anti-globalization. Like, this uranium was mined in Quebec, then packaged in Vietnam. But this is also coming when Amazon's talking about reusing drone technology. Where again, they say that advances in technology are taking place in industries where widespread strikes are taking place, and employees are demanding better working conditions and pay. This is from a blog talking about Amazon, not Amazon themselves. I don't think they'd be saying this. With the use of robotics, employers may be able to bypass these demands altogether. So that's excuse me. I'm going to start that again. This is from HR Grapevine, a company that one of these specialist HR. One more time. This is from HR Grapevine, which is one of these like trade publications that I sometimes find, where they talk about how these advances in technology.
Very press round on Have I Got News for You energy.
Yeah. Oh, I love those. As any listener to this show will know, I love very specific trade publications. Yeah. The Grocer has been so helpful to me.
Quebec Uranium Quarterly.
Yeah. They sort of noted, right, that all of these announcements are taking place at the same time, that they're using drone technology to deliver parcels. Again, they claim to be doing that. Who knows how well it will work or how many people will be killed by just like someone's uranium falling on them from a great
different kind of drone strike, you know?
Yeah.
I like it.
And that, or these robots coming into warehouses where unionizations might be happening. The HR Grapevine just notes blithely, again, it's for HR professionals, so it's like, this is good. Notably,
the HR Whisper Network.
These advances in technology are taking place in industries where widespread strikes are also taking place, and employees are demanding better working conditions and pay. The use of robotics, employers may be able to bypass these demands altogether. So if we saw, right, that so many of these failures to take care that Amazon is sort of perpetrating, selling people piss or all this stuff, where they're saying, well, we're going to do more of that. We're going to have more packages just flying through the air. We're going to have more robots in our in our fulfillment centers. And that's like largely, without saying it, because of unionization. Again, they've not said that, but you can sort of connect the dots yourself. Then all of this is saying that a fundamental piece of the plumbing of our lives is going to get probably more reckless.
Yeah, I don't know. With all this stuff, I tend to feel like, I think in the warehouse I was in, they had some robots in there. Isn't it all just going to be basically dysfunctional without humans anyway? So it's just kind of a way to sort of demean people and demoralize them rather than genuinely having like this robotopia fucking fulfillment center. It would just be like the jobs become, it'll be more interaction between humans and robots. But I do think that it's just constantly reframing of the debate to position themselves as this sort of innovative tech company when, they're basically just Walmart.
Innovative, right? But not innovative in the way that they'd like you to think they're being innovative.
We said loads of stuff that's going to get me in trouble.
Hey, well, thank you for coming and saying it on here.
I appreciate it.
We just replaced it with like long beeps,
Yeah.
Yeah, really long beeps.
If you're in the UK, you can check out the Great Amazon Heist on Channel 4. If you're not in the UK, I suppose you're going to have to find your own way to check it out.
Yeah, and if you work for Amazon, you can get some free academic commentary.
Yeah.
That's right. Once again, Oobah, thank you very much. It's been a delight.
Thank you, guys.
Secondly, if you are out there listening to us, you should check out our Patreon for $5 a month. Only once you have donated to medical aid for Palestinians, the link of which will, of course, be in the show notes. And otherwise, we'll see you in a few days on the bonus episode. Our theme song is Here We Go by Ginseng. Check it out on Spotify, which I'm aware also is a platform probably hosted on Amazon Web Services. But
Isn't
once you make your
everything.
peace with that, check out Ginseng's Here We Go.
Yeah.
See you in a few days, everybody, unless Milo, you have dates.
November 11, 12, and 14. I will be in Bristol, Birmingham, and Oxford, respectively. The tickets for that are slowly trickling away. So please do, much like the piss of an Amazon driver, please do grab a hold of those. Links on my website.
Okay, now for real, we'll see you in a few days. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.